Squid Game's music is perfect. That sounds like an opinion, but it actually isn't. Danger is looming. It's headed your way. The reason why you can feel the danger is because in this track, titled Pink Soldiers, actually uses an old Gregorian chant melody, Dies Irae, from 13th century Catholicism. This melody was only used in Catholic funeral ceremonies. These 4 notes are the key element to Dies Irae. You've heard them before. So every time you hear this song in Squid Game, which is played in the first 6 episodes multiple times, but at least once, you know death is either being depicted or it's right around the corner. But in a dark and twisted way, Pink Soldiers is still kind of playful, but not as playful as way back then. This was the very first song we heard in the show, when the Korean children are playing Squid Game out on the playground, which is a real game by the way. Adding to the kiddish nature of the scene being portrayed, the flute almost sounds like a nursery rhyme you may have heard. In this particular scene, it just feels right, hearing a youthful melody in the background while watching children play a game. However, for the entirety of the film after the first scene, you will hear the eerie juxtaposition of happy and uplifting music being performed while some of the most gruesome and violent actions are taking place. Before we get into this sexy Sinatra-esque scene of people being shot leading to their expiration, let's start out with something a little less unnerving and a bit more artistic. My name is Patrick CC. Hydrate or die. Wake up. It's time to start the day. The Franz Joseph Haydn Trumpet Concerto is used as wake-up music in Korean schools, building the association with the viewer and the players that it is time, in fact, to start this shit. This is pretty direct and obvious. However, the next one, not so obvious. When each game is about to begin, the announcement is made for all players to line up and follow the staff's instructions. Then they are typically led to the iconic colorful staircase. And when we see that staircase, we're usually met with the song Blue Danube Waltz. So why play graceful and elegant music when these people are being led to their potential demise? Well, it could be to simply calm the players. Maybe the music helps keep their adrenaline down and allow them to focus before the most important game of their lives. Or it's played to satisfy the overwhelming majority of the people benefiting from the Squid Game, which is rich people. We know that the game is being broadcasted and consumed by mega rich people, which we found out later in the show. And when you think of classical music, you probably think of the extremely rich or upper class, having refined tastes, whereas poor people are typically shut out from the prestige that comes with going to classical music halls and concerts, which are expensive. So while this fat, crusty, old rich bastard is sitting back drinking his champagne watching these peasants climb up the stairs to their doom, he can enjoy his favorite concerto performed in E-flat major. Either way, it's definitely meant to throw the actual viewer, like you and I, way off. We are constantly being misled and feel unsure about all of what we're seeing because of the fun and lighthearted imagery and music complementing the heinous actions of, well, killing people. 111 million viewers, making Squid Game the biggest debut in Netflix history. Did you know that the South Korean composer that was hired to select and compose the show's music, Jun Jae-il, also scored the film Parasite, which won an Oscar in 2020? Yeah, so I don't think the music being extremely fire was luck. I think homie knew what he was doing. There are also a few Squid Game songs that feel very old Western style. Round 1 and I Remember My Name. You know, the ones you would hear when 2 old rugged cowboys are about to have a standoff. Who can draw their gun out faster to shoot the other dead? Wha-pow! And Nare Soul actually highlighted this point perfectly.
I think this really highlights the wild, wild west nature of things, how anything goes, but there are still some basic rules. The games are both strict and violently barbaric, similar to showdowns, which are performed as a game with straightforward rules, but where someone is fated to die for a really insignificant reason.
I hinted at this earlier, but the most striking scene, in my opinion, came at the first episode, Red Light, Green Light. Probably since I had no idea what was about to happen, and neither did the players. At the height of the game, we see the frontman spin around in his chair and turns on a cover of Fly Me to the Moon performed by Zhu Wan. I'm sorry if I'm botching all these people's names. The song was popularized by Frank Sinatra, and if you want to talk about classy, listen to this tune.
Fly me to the moon, let me play up there with those stars.
This is the first time we got the hint that this was being broadcasted to people, as we saw the frontman enjoying a glass of whiskey while kicked back in his traditional Chesterfield sofa chair, watching the game on the big screen. The lights are dim and yellow, with red and gold accents, giving this scene an ultra-royal feel. The total opposite of the bright and childlike pastel colors on the screen, further pushing the separation of the rich and poor narrative. We can see little by little the chaos and panic erupting in the game one by one. Bodies are dropping and the music is building with energy. At this point, you realize how evil it is to illustrate the deaths of people as something that is sexy, romantic, and utopian. But the same song plays in episode 8 when the frontman's brother dies. He has this realization that one of his loved ones and family members is gone because of this game. You know, the game that he's controlling and setting up. But then that sweet Frank Sinatra music comes back in like, we don't care that you're the frontman. We're vibing out to everybody's death. There are no exceptions here, frontman. Take that. Sit back in your little Chesterfield and have a glass of whiskey to the death of your brother. You piece of shit. Little redemption arc for the players. Also, notice all of the players are sort of wandering and hesitant to move forward while entering the next game behind the soldiers who are marching in synchronized fashion as a typical military soldier would. If we listen to the song playing during this scene, titled Needle and Dalgona, it is reminiscent of American Civil War music. And American soldiers in the Civil War era would march in perfect formation when leading to battle. Now, I don't know if this was intentional or not, probably, but listening to Needle and Dalgona, it almost sounds like an unsure American Civil War music. It's like a simplified and stripped down version of that sound. Like the classical war music is very full, prim and proper, forward leading and confident, but the Squid Game track sounds more lackluster, empty, and insecure, which makes a lot of sense considering these players are entering their next battle, but they all, as you can see, are very timid while approaching the line. Just a small musical detail that's really nice. When the piggy bank fills up with cash, we get this 8-bit chiptune track titled The Fat and the Rats, which is very reminiscent of some 80s and 90s arcade games. And to complement that, you have the managers who monitor the game sitting at surveillance stations that are designed to look like arcade games. Pretty sure anyone could have picked up on that, but who doesn't love a good chiptune? The last game when it's just down to 2 players. The first time where during a game we actually get some barbaric war drum style music to accompany the brutal nature of the game being played. It's cinematic, dark, and fitting. But this doesn't happen until the very end. But I'm glad they went for something classically cinematic at the end. It just kind of feels right. If the music in Squid Game was very cinematic the whole time, eerie strings and big waves of bass and whoosh sound, you know what I'm talking about, it would still be a good film. But scoring the film with music that is playful, cheery, and childlike to complement all of the imagery in the film makes it go from very good to a masterpiece. Thank you all so much for 500k subscribers. New videos every Tuesday.